hello everyone. Also from my side, welcome to today's ANCHISE webinar. Thank you for being here with us. Our speaker today is, as Marco said, is Mariusz Wisniewski. He will be sharing his practical experience in combating illicit trafficking of cultural heritage from a user perspective. Mr. Wisniewski holds a master's degree in archaeology from the University of Warsaw and has extensive field experience across Europe. Since 2013, he has focused on heritage conservation, and now he works at Poland's Ministry of Culture and National Heritage. There, his key responsibilities include the search, documentation, identification, and restitution of looted, stolen, or illegally exported cultural heritage and artworks, as well as promoting the use of digital technologies in this field. He is also very active internationally, presenting papers at conferences and serving as Poland's coordinator for cultural goods return. Okay, now I will hand it over to Mr. Wisniewski for his talk.
You are muted, Mariusz.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is that better? Thank you, Huajian. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, ANCHISE, for inviting me here. I wanted to briefly share a part of our experience, which we accumulated over the last 6 years, since 2018-19 breakthrough, when we started using modern technologies in a more broader fashion. And today I'm trying to present how these experiences actually map and coincide with what ANCHISE is coming up with, and how some solutions are universal and how some of them are being born independently through different experiences and can be found to be invaluable. And of course, the gentleman in the first picture is the father of Polish restitution, the Mr. Streicher, and he's sort of looking after what I'm talking about and hopefully correcting me at some points. And today I wanted to highlight what we are actually doing. I wanted to map how it matches some of ANCHISE extensive toolbox and how it actually is applicable to any other institutions, not only ministries and not only police, but also to private enterprises and companies and researchers and smaller institutes like museums who are searching for their own stolen or missing works of art. Who we are, and ministry has very Ministry of Culture, and this division of restitution of cultural goods has various responsibilities, and they are described in many legal acts. One of these legal acts is the 2017 Act of Restitution of Cultural Goods, which describes the action of my division. We are to represent the state, the treasury. At home, we represent the state treasury in litigation across all legal forums. We represent the recovery operations and cooperate within EU and outside of EU when it comes to restitution to and from Poland. But what does it come to if it comes to actual actions? It's the search, the verification, the recovery, the communication, the coordination, police with customs, with prosecutors, communication with the institutions like ANCHISE, with other ministries. And this is all important part of our day-to-day work. As such, is very diverse, and as such, any kind of team would be too small to have unique roles ascribed to any individual. And we are, as a team, very diverse. And not only we are diverse, but we are also having multiple roles. That's why my role is not only searching for lost pieces of art, but also outreach, but also brief and very introductory first verification, first phases of verification. But it's also IMI system. Not only that, we have a very diverse landscape. And this diverse landscape is the landscape of a very fast-moving market, where the objects are visible and works of art are visible for a few days or few hours sometimes, and where we are monitoring thousands upon thousands of museums and art vendors and art markets. And the evidence that we are working on is also very scattered. Not only has it not been properly maintained, but it sometimes didn't survive the upheavals of history that led to the destruction of Polish art collections. As such, the success of what we do hinges upon different factors, and the most decisive factors are the speed, the precision, and the surety in what we produce. Of course, that is not always possible, but it is possible in a measurable amount of instances. And what supports us is the Code of Administrative Procedure in Poland, which not only in restitution, but any kind of administrative procedure, subpoenas the public servants to actually act decisively in the simplest possible manner, in the simplest possible means. And this is what we actually wanted to introduce. We didn't want to introduce modern technology into art restitution for the sake of it. We wanted to make it simpler and faster, just to serve the public in such a way. So this is not art for the sake of it. This is not technology for the showcasing of technology. This is the very specific use just to make the public actually recover its own goods, because according to Polish constitution, the access to culture is granted to all, which is very, very important to us, and directly linked into Article 6 of the Polish Constitution. As such, we have broader strategy, and the broader strategy is defined within the legal act of the restitution from 25th of May of 2017, which of course includes the cooperation with European Union and different cooperation networks, which are not only carried out by Polish ministry, but also by police, by customs, by border patrol. And we also have national measures which have been implemented before. Some of these national measures are, for example, databases, national database of stolen art and art illegally exported, as well as not database of the so-called war losses. These databases have led to digitization of what we could find in the national and what we are still finding in national archives, and they are sort of creating the backbone of data that we can later on build up upon. Each of these tools is tried and tested, and each of these tools is actually carefully constructed upon decades and decades of archival work, of museum work, and of scientific work. So that's why I'm showing you the picture from the 1946, because we are standing on the shoulders of giants. This is the work that has started, I want to say, before the Second World War, well before, but it was emphasized by what this part of our history magnified thousandfold. And it had been started consciously already during occupation, so the restitution could start immediately after the hostilities ceased. As such, it was possible for us to always implement some kind of policy, and this policy is modernized. As I mentioned, in 2017, it has been modernized by the current law, which also implements the directive on the return of cultural goods. And as such, we are able to promote the reporting and public guidance and provenance checks and due diligence among museums and dealers and platforms. And as such, we are proud to cooperate with police and customs and public prosecutors' offices and border guards and National Library and other libraries and museums. Not to, and these are not empty words. Actually, we are almost every week participating in what police is doing, and they are participating in the trainings that we provide, and vice versa. We are also training ourselves in what police requires, and what police does require, what customs does require, and other forces is surety. Surety that what we produce is actionable. That's why we also went from the broader perspective into actual operational measures. And the operational measure is market and collection monitoring. This was always done in the modern history of this ministry. This has always been done, but it was done traditionally, as far as the internet is traditional, as long as the internet or is presenting the results or even upcoming auctions of and the art market in general, it has always been monitored by specialists. But it is impossible to employ 1,000 specialists or 10,000 of them to monitor everything diligently, only with human eye and human knowledge. And that's why we decided to actually increase it thousandfold. So in case, instead of a harpoon, we are moving toward the net that is sort of trawling the wide waters of the art market as we see it. This net is supposed to catch, and it does catch, many different instances of works of art that are interesting to us. With the current tools that we are operating, this is a rough estimate is between 40 and 100 objects every single day. And most of them that we are not sure about are discounted almost immediately. Today, for me, it was 57 objects that I had to quickly make a decision about and decide whether we are onto something or whether we are actually still wanting to find more and more. And sometimes these are the same objects coming up from the same traces. Sometimes they are unique. 90% of the movement of the market is actually generated by 1% of most popular matches. As such, because of the mountain of data that is being generated, the speed is even more important than it used to be before, because we are not working with a single object that has to be checked every single time, but we are working with a multitude of decisions that have to be made on a very low level, so we can present a more concrete object to further check to my colleagues and then to the police to prosecutor or to foreign authorities if that happens to be outside the Polish borders. That's why it's important to make a decision in a minute. And that's why it's important to export the data about the decision and which data that supports the decision almost immediately. And that's why it's important to actually have it streamlined. And we are trying to achieve that. And as far as I know, and what I've learned over the last year, since I'm invited into ANCHISE, the ANCHISE toolbox is very similar in that approach, which actually warms my heart a lot. And this is a example of convergency and sort of evolution in the same direction. Although we have not been connected before a few years ago, we have evolved in a similar direction, and that just proves that this is a necessity, and this is also a very obvious direction of evolution of tools. We are monitoring the art market, monitoring the archaeological sites is also done by this ministry, although by different branches. So I'm not going to be talking about this extensively. Object identification is something that is done almost throughout all the public institutions in Poland. Shared databases are shared among many institutions, especially forces. And these are sometimes the databases that I mentioned before, ours, like run by the ministry. And of course, as I mentioned before, the monitoring of the actual market where the objects are being bought and sold every single day. These are the main focuses that ANCHISE is working on, but the ministry itself had the duty to work on for many years before, and we are starting to go into this direction since last 6 years with the use of technology. Today, the model we are operating on includes the various digital tools, but we are not beholden to the tools that we use at the moment. We accept the fact that we might change them at some point in the future. We are beholden to what the legal acts actually are expecting us to do for the public good, not only for the Polish public, but for the general public. And this is to act decisively to detect the traces of looted, stolen, or missing works of art, to very quickly diversify or triage what is promising, what is not promising, what is promising but can actually hold because it has been found, for example, in a museum collection, and what has been found in an art market and might disappear again within a few days. And based upon this data, we have to maybe an hour or 2 or 3 to decide on the most possible legal road to actually employ to buy us as much time later on for the actual proceedings. And this very early stage is something that I'm working on most of the time. And sometimes we're going into parallel tracks if needed. Sometimes we are preparing bigger or smaller evidence packs. Each and every time the data that we are gathering has to be actionable. That's why we had to design the software or the workflow, or so, not the software itself, but the workflow to be affordable, scalable, replaceable, and to be the most universal that it can actually happen. It's sort of the rule of a double click. If you want to present the tool to your superiors or to somebody who's interested but not very tech savvy, usually the tool itself has to do something understandable after double click or a single click. If it does that, it means that the learning curve is gonna be not too steep for us to actually not to go into that solution. That's why we decided to be first safe we isolated the tools that are used for this specific tasks from the other internal tools of the ministry. We decided to go for the tools that have graphic user interfaces. That's why they can be used by anybody, not only AI programmers, or not only AI or programmers. We do believe API is very important, but API itself is something that would lock the tools for smaller audience. That's why we decided also to have a twofold approach. First of all, and this is something that is known to ANCHISE very, very well, it is important to us to employ crawlers that are constantly, every single day, semi-automatically crawling auctions, museums, and all the publicly available internet in search of our in the asterisk, missing works of art. You can see the example of the beautiful drawing by Vasily Kandinsky here, which has been found exactly this kind of way. The other part of this twofold approach is the internal visual comparison engine, which actually allows us to have the internal searches, and it allows us to be responsive to the requests of police or customs or other forces which want to actually know if the object they found or stopped is something that we are looking for. As such, we are preparing very specific methods today. That would be watch list, that would be reverse image search, which is the technology that's employed by our crawlers. And this is the automation that's largely that allows this to happen. So I can actually oversee it, or my colleagues can oversee it themselves without the need for a huge secondary team to actually do it. Verification in the internal search has also been very quick on the accept decline basis. So we can present the data very quickly to our superiors who actually make the decision if we are going into the case or not. And this quick visual comparanda allows us, regardless of which tool we are actually using out of our tool stack, actually provides us sometimes with already some nuances about the work of art itself. Has it been redone? Has it been repainted? Is something matching or not matching? Is it something like a different copy? Is it something that maybe is a digital imposter of our original, or is it just a republished photo from our own data sources? That's why when we are ready with the tools and sources and with a stack of information that we gathered over the minutes, we are free to go into the legal road that is most appropriate. And of course, in the European Union, this is IMI. But there are other tools which we are happy to employ. As a policy, we are putting very, very strong emphasis on negotiation. Negotiation, especially if something is found at a place of a vendor who's actually helped us in the past or might help us in the future. As such, we are working with the market, not against the market, which is important for the success of this particular work. It's maybe a little bit different than working with illicitly trafficked works of art of archaeological origin that have been unknown. We're working most of the time with the known objects. That's why we know what we're looking for. But at the same time, we're working also with something that has been on the market potentially for 8 years, which also creates challenges. In this I'm happy to present you with examples of how it works. This first story is a story of a painting that has been found because I was just too tired monitoring German art market. And I wanted to find something on the other side of the globe. I wanted to change the perspective and just for a second look at the farthest corner of the globe and decided to go and see what's going on in Japan. And chose the Japanese auction, one of the most reputable auction houses, and as such downloaded entire auction listing and checked it in our internal search engine. The search engine came up with a match for this painting. The painting has been retouched, redone, but the geometry was perfectly preserved. So although the scarf and these parts and some parts of the background didn't match, we knew that the geometry of the painting, the size of the painting, and the general composition was mathematically perfect if it comes to matching with our sources from Second World War. And I knew that my colleagues are going to be able to explain this repainting and retouching in some of the parts. As such, we contacted the seller very, very quickly with the data at hand. We were able to present the comparanda and we were able to halt the sale. And later on, calmly go into negotiation. And we are proud to actually cooperate with this auction house, which is called Mainichi, Japan, Tokyo. The object is back at home. The entire proceedings took over a year, but the first decision was made within maybe 6 minutes. That's importance of the reliable tool that proved that the geometry of the painting is the same as the geometry of the photo from 1943. Second object is a story of a dialogue. This is also one of our very, very first examples of something being found using modern technology and graphic image search. We were building the tool stack at the moment. The painting of a Christ, you can see on the right-hand side, is so popular that I was unable to locate any such a painting in effectively, just because of the number of reproductions on the market. The painting on the left-hand side, the painting of Virgin Mary, is also very popular and has been reproduced very, very in very controlled manner in a very similar way many times before. But this very single copy that we are looking for had this ornament, golden ornament on the scarf. And this golden ornament caused the painting to be unique. And identification of this ornament without knowing the frames of what we found at the time has led us to believe that we found the painting in a very specific location in Spain. We went into dialogue, and this dialogue led us to exchange information. Over the course of 3 years, we've managed to recover the painting with full cooperation of Spanish authorities, and it is now in the same castle, in the same place that it was before the Second World War. And it's actually a boon to the local population and amazing source of pride that this happened. Much smaller object had the same success story. This small dagger is very characteristic. It had been found during our cooperation with customs officers. It's the customs officers and the police that decided to go and check for unknown reasons to me, very suspicious seller of arms and artworks. And in the seller's house, they decided to actually check with us almost every single item, and it has been hundreds of items. And a successful cooperation, because of having the tools that we had at our disposal, I was able to correctly check a couple hundred items in one day just on the basis of photographs, and pinpoint two, including this dagger, which had been stolen in 1980s from the local museum. And it led to the conviction, actually. So it's a success story. Police, of course, had other reasons and other fines as well as this one, but this one is back in the institution it was lost from. What is important to us, you can see on the image in here, is that the technology actually supports our legal framework, and it supports our cooperation with other entities. It supports our way of work, and we are not forced to learn the technology and make it the center of our operation. And the most basic identifiers of what is actually good in the technology are mentioned in here. So first of all, the fact that we can trust the technology and the technological solution. This sums up in here. The fact that we can access it on different levels from different places and we can give that access to somebody else. And the fact that we can operate it fast and easily on a large bodies of data and change that bodies of data. These are the sort of three main objectives. And if I were to point to three main objectives of what is good technology in that kind of user scenario, then I would point to these ones. And I am, of course, happy to share more with you in the future. And I am happy to present you with practical wins. And for example, for us, it's important that we have access to actually operate not only the source data, but also the archival data and merge them and turn them into a actionable sort of stream of in a sense that one of our actions leads to another, to learning, and to actually producing further and more refined results of the work. That's why we're happy with the solution, which is very similar to ANCHISE solutions. To be sorry, maybe I went too much into theory and rather than practice. We are very happy that we are sort of building a network and building a data net that creates more and more success with every single iteration. We are very happy with the fact that we are gaining feedback, and we are very happy that we are being able to share this with what we are finding with very fast, and we are building trust into the technology with the next partners. So we are building all the images you saw in these presentations have been acquired through these methods, and they all became a part of training materials for law enforcement and museums. And we are able to share our source data and our data that we have actually gathered through this extra intelligence. And as such, we're creating sort of more and more trusted data. And I hope what I want you to take from that for the future is the fact how ANCHISE is developing, in my view, in very, very similar way. I want you to remember that if you design this kind of systems, you always want to go with end user and end user needs with mind into the future. So end user that acts like my ministry needs speed, evidence, interoperability. The end user that operates in the same legal system needs the tools that fit into the legal routes, because it cannot be the other way around. And we have to be always in a feedback with the developer, so the tools never become bloated with something that we don't need, and are always agile and always useful to us. And I do see these design principles in ANCHISE. We are using completely different tools at the same time. So as I said, we are not beholden to that. That choice can change. But it's important that we are building them for something. And I do have 6 years of experience to show that it works. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mariusz.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Mariusz. It was great.
Thank you, Mariusz. Thank you for the great presentation. And now we have a Q&A session. If anybody has questions, you can just raise your hand and use your microphone to raise your question. Or you can also just write the question in the chat. Yeah, so Mariusz and we all can see the chat. So and Mariusz can also ask the question there.
May I break the ice, Huajian?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Hi, Mariusz. We already met, and I know about your work, and this presentation was really interesting also to delve deep in concretely what you're doing. And I think this is an audience that really likes concrete actions. So thank you very much for this. And I have two questions that might sound very simple, but I'm very, very interested about it. You talked about the collaboration with the police, and I might have missed it, but my question is, first question that I have two. First question is, do you have a specific section in law enforcement agencies in Poland that work on countering illicit trafficking of cultural goods? First question. And the second question is about our friends at Europeana. If your interaction with the data space for cultural heritage, what do you use the data space and Europeana for? And what would you need more from the data space to actually use it more in your work? Thank you again for this presentation.
Thank you. And I hope the fact is that I would dream to have a 3-hour-long presentation. That's why that would be most convenient for me. Sometimes I do not have the time to speak shortly. Coming back to your first question, Polish police decided to go into a special agreement with the Ministry of Culture and decided that most of the time these crimes against the cultural heritage are investigated by criminal officers. And it's the case almost with throughout the country. Each and every voivodeship, which is the administrative division of Poland, has its own police headquarters, which of course answer to the central headquarters. And the voivodeships have in their police headquarters have a coordinator, and I have direct contact privately and over the phone, over the email, and over the chat groups with these coordinators throughout Poland, and so do my colleagues. So this is not a special unit, but this is one person in every single unit throughout the country. So this is the network that has been decided, because they are sort of rooted in their own in their own little networks in their own regions of the country, and they know the best the needs of their colleagues, and they can sort of contact with us, but they can also contact with the museums, with other forces, because with other forces, with specialists. And if we're providing training, we're providing trainings for those coordinators among the police. The customs have the same kind of network of separate, but the same kind of structure for another 20 coordinators. This is the same for border patrol, the same for prosecutors. So this is overlapping 4 or 5 or 6 national networks with a coordinator in each region, and we all know each other, and we try to keep contact with each other. So this is of course the dream. Sometimes the dream is broken by the fact that somebody leaves the job or somebody gets a different assignment, and we have sort of get accustomed to a new person, and the new person has to pick up the previous cases from a previous person. So the network is not unbroken, but it's very strong, and it's overlapping between different forces. So it's not a separate unit, is a mesh, I would say. And the second question is Europeana. And I do have to say that Europeana at this moment and at this shape it is now is a great source, but it's mostly a great source when we are building the case for restitution after it has been confirmed. We sort of have still to find a way to implement it into this 1 minute decision sort of workflow. We haven't found a way to actually, find something in a Europeana in 1 minute and then use it. But later on, once we are preparing the data for the actual restitution claim, where the sale has already been stopped or where the museum has already been connected and contacted, then of course Europeana data is invaluable, and then of course it's very useful to us. So what we are still striving to do, and it's not only Europeana, there are a few other very, very beautiful and important sources that we have sort of come up with a way to actually involve them into the workflow in a way that we can use them in a minute, like literally in a minute or two. That's the challenge for us, and I understand that.
Yes. Thank you for the answer. And from my side, I also have a technical question. And I know you are using TinEye Alert. And in addition to TinEye, what other automation tools are you also currently using?
Okay, yes, that's one of the most reliable tools so far that we found is TinEye Alerts. This is the tool. I did mention the twofold approach. The TinEye Alerts is the tool for monitoring of the market, and it's actually useful, very much useful for us because we have it's flexible enough that we could populate it with our data. It's reliable enough that it has very low, noticeable but very low amount of false positives. And the workflow is user-friendly enough that we can actually use it for, as I mentioned, 1 minute decision making. So this is the tool that we are happy with as a main tool for the art market monitoring. But this is also a very competitive area, and we know there is many other tools, and almost every single year we are trying another one and another one to check if it adds on top of what TinEye can do. We are especially enticed by the tools that are basically very low cost or free. At the moment, this is what the idea that we're working on, and these are the tools that are copyright tools for photographers who tracked their own works online. You can mention CopyTrack or Pixie or any other one of them. And they are very similar, very often very user-friendly. It's just a matter of coverage for them and the actual user interface, which are they, and this is the deciding factor if they're useful or not useful for us. What we are missing across the board, and this is important, what we are missing across the board is the ability for us to actually point them directly at something that we are most interested in. And this is something that we want to go into and evolve.
Yeah, thank you. And now I see Evelina has also a question. Evelina, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. This is very interesting, very helpful presentation. I'm Ukrainian archaeologist, and I know that we have information about directives of European Union, but these directives is not implemented to Ukrainian law now. So, do you have an information about black traffic from Ukraine to Poland? And have you collaboration with Ukrainian authority deals with black traffic? Thank you.
Thank you. That's very, of course, interesting and heavy subject at the moment. And of course, I don't not only want to say yes, but I have to say yes. Yes, it is noticeable that the number of objects from Ukraine entering into Poland has always been visible, and in recent years has grown. The tools that I've been describing today are the tools that are possible for me to use if I have the source data, if the objects that are missing have been known to me before they weren't missing. That's the key factor in here. So if somebody, be it from Ukraine or any other country, comes into cooperation with my ministry and decides to share data, I can add that data into our data stack, usually within a couple minutes, and then monitor the market for these known objects. If the objects that are being trafficked across the border are unknown, for example, they were never recorded or they were excavated illegally, and then they were trafficked illegally across the border, which is also noticeable and it is present in Poland. But in these kind of situations, other tools than the ones that I described today are useful. And you are very happy because, as far as I know, ANCHISE has very similar tools to actually recognize something or help you recognize something that has not been recorded before. But it's not currently a part of our data stack at the moment in my ministry. But it's of course possible as long as I get the data to actually make it comparable and actionable. So I hope that satisfies you at the moment as an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mariusz, for the answer. So I can add the tool. Yeah, so in ANCHISE, yeah, so we have developed tools. Yeah, it's called artifacts that can recognize unknown or not documented objects. Yeah, it's not only to recognize the documented objects, but also the unknown looted objects. Yeah. So, any more questions? So actually from my side, I have one more technical questions. Yeah, this may, yeah, this actually is also very interesting to me. This is so, you mentioned that, yeah, we all know this automated search and matching tools will bring also irrelevant result, also not very good matched result, also not relevant to your case. Yeah. Do you feel in the in your current tools the false positive rate is too high? Or let's say that's considering the workload of the manual inspection afterwards, yeah, what level of false positive rate would you consider acceptable?
That's actually very, very difficult, very difficult to answer, because the false positives are of two types. First ones are the ones that are very promising but are actually false positives, and second ones are the ones that I would call the background noise. So first few days with the tools that we are using, and any of them, have been a nightmare before we realized that we are dealing with these two types of false positives. Please imagine a bell curve where the central part is all false positives. 90% of the traffic in the internet is created by 1% of most popular images. For example, Mona Lisa. If you start, there's only one Mona Lisa, but if you start to search for Mona Lisa online, you're gonna find millions of websites with very convincing matches. And this is the one type, the background noise. So this is the false positive that actually generates 90% of the traffic. And we have in our collection images of our works of art that have been very popular or have been made very popular, even though they are missing. And they create this sort of background noise. And if somebody is unfamiliar with what we are looking for, this is overwhelming, because this is thousands upon thousands of websites. But very quickly you'll learn to realize in your own collection which one are these, and you just discard them very, very quickly. And this background noise is actually upheld by the works of art that are not sort of unique. For example, woodcuts. A woodcut would be made in 200 or 300 copies, and every single one of them is original. But you are looking for this one particular missing stolen copy, which is also original, and this is a nightmare to solve. So these are the, but if you are able to solve it, it's because this particular woodcut had a number or a stamp or a dry stamp or some other differentiating factor. And this actually is something that you have to learn quickly. And if you're introducing somebody else into the workflow, you have to explain it quickly so they are not drowning in this initial flood of data. And then there is a more insidious type of false positive, which are much more rare in number. And it's mostly because a painter made two copies of the same painting, or somebody made a copy themselves, or the painting has been remade, or somebody in any way altered the object and created a second version of it, even if that second version is not physical but only digital. And the fact that it is unique and it doesn't appear in thousands of copies makes you think that you are actually onto something, and then you spend minutes and then hours into something that proves to be the other version of the original you're looking for. And I'm saying original, but in this case, in Poland, we are looking for original as the object that has originally been from the collection that we are looking for. Which a good example is painting by a Tiziano, where you know the Tiziano Bella. The original is of course in the Uffizi Gallery, but Poland has a second version of it. And then there's a third version in the United States, and a fourth version somewhere. So if you go into false positives, the 90% of the traffic is created by Uffizi gallery representation. Then there is this insidious case of the painting in the United States. And then we are still looking for the one that we are actually missing from Poland. So yeah, that's the two types of false positives. The first type is something that no tool can work with. The second type is something that digital tools can actually help you with. And with our main tools are very good at it. And by saying very good, I mean, we are, and this is my educated guess, we are below 10% of false positives of the second type. We are not able to drown out the noise unless we start looking for certain objects that create the noise, and we just remove them from data stack. But we are able to monitor and bring down the false positives of the sort of promising objects, quote unquote. Because we're under 10%, then we're happy with that.
Okay, then that means so for the second kind of false positive, so under simple tense you can still handle it as no problem. Yeah? But for the first kind of false positive, so you can just filter out it very quickly by the by menu inspection, or you think it's also so I mean so it's the workload is still too high.
Yes, we're looking into that, and I hope I will get into it, because there is always this what if in your head, and this what if actually prevents us from this filtering, and that's why we keep on suffering and checking them. Yeah, okay. So that what if this is the original what if. So this what if is our own curse, and this is not technology. This is psychology of my own team and myself.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much for the answer. Okay. Now it's 18 o'clock. It's the time. Yeah. So just now 30 seconds. If anybody has one more questions.
Yeah. If I may, Huajian, I just wanted to thank you for moderating this session. It was great, and say that we were very honored for the presence of Mariusz, and we were really thrilled to hear all this conversation, and this is a great addition to the ANCHISE Talks. I just wanted to remind everyone in the audience that ANCHISE is not just ANCHISE Talks, but is a whole project. I think a lot of the things that we do have been talked about during this hour. So of course, if you want to know more and you want to delve more into the things that we do, please go check the website anchise.eu. I sent you the link to X and LinkedIn in the chat. If you have any question, please contact us on the mail that you see on the screen. And of course, these are all the partners in the project. And please stay tuned, because we have wonderful news to share very, very soon, because of course we are getting at the end of the project, and we're going to have a final big forum so that we can talk about everything that's happened these last 3 years. I would say that, again, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Huajian. Thank you, Mariusz. And I think we can say goodbye to our audience.
Yeah, also from my side, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you. I was honored to be here and to be invited.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, you everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.